Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and whatever time of day or night you're watching or listening to this, I wish you the best of it. My name is Grant Lamontang. I'm the owner of multitool.org and SAKWiki.com, and you are listening to EDC TV, the podcast where we discuss all of the things in your pockets. With me today is Abe Elias, field editor for Blade Magazine and owner of Diving Sparrow Knife Works. How are you today, Abe?
Good, Grant.
That's good. Glad to have you here. And we also have a man who is definitely not in the witness protection program, Inky. How you doing today, Chris?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Anything new happening with you guys lately?
Nope. Nothing really, no.
Way to just keep that ball going. Appreciate that.
I got this the other day.
Ooh, that would be a silver Victorinox box. Is there a knife in it, or did you just get the box?
Funny thing is, I went to a garage. There was a neighborhood garage sale. You know, they do that.
Yeah.
And the dude I pull up at one table. I get out. He has buck knives, Benchmades, and the Victorinox. That's all he had.
Oh, really?
Harley Davidson case knives, the trappers, and some belt buckle set. And I wound up buying the XL. You know, but it's the
that's a Work Champ XL.
Yeah, it's not the XL. I'm sorry, just the Work Champ. It has a slide lock. So I guess these discontinued about 8 or 9 years ago. So
yeah, something like that.
I was happy to grab it. It's never been used. I never even opened it yet. I didn't even check it. I wound up paying $62 for it.
Oh, that's not a bad deal. They're generally over 100, if I recall.
Yeah, plus these are the continued ones. So I'm pretty sure I have it, but it doesn't matter. I could have 10 of them. I still would have had to buy it.
Yeah, exactly. You can never have enough Swiss Army knives.
Yeah.
Hey, just in our pre-show there, before we started recording, I noticed you had a pretty neat watch on. What have you got going on there?
Actually, this is really... I've got Timexes, and they just fail to keep the time. I've had Casios, not a G-Shock, but built like a G-Shock. It died because it got hit with paint drywall. This little watch is... I don't know if I can get it in there. Here we go. It says Biden on it, but the company was listed as Livona or something like that. I paid $17 Canadian for this thing, and she has been keeping time spot on since I got it 3 months ago.
So, yeah, today I am wearing a Casio twin sensor watch myself. It tells you the temperature, and it's got a digital compass on it, which is really, really handy, so that way you know which direction you're going in and what time it is when you freeze to death. Very like that.
Compass is always a good thing.
Absolutely, although I do prefer... a standard compass to a digital one usually, but beggars can't be choosers. And at least when stuck to your wrist, you're not going to leave it at home unless you also forget your left hand.
So steels. You want to talk about like high price steels, the steel race, the whole thing in its entirety?
Well, sort of the broad strokes. I mean, I know we can probably talk for hours at length, on the differences of steels. I think given all of our years in the industry, the three of us can probably qualify as metallurgical experts. But I guess really what I wanted to talk about today was, are the steels really the be-all and end-all? When you see a knife, is it, I got to get the D2, or I got to get the ATS 34. Do I have to get the ATS 55? Do I have to get the CPM? The 440s and the 420s, and nowadays, of course, it's that MagnaCut. We got to all have MagnaCut and spend a fortune on a knife. Realistically, do you need anything like that? What is MagnaCut doing for you that's improving your daily life?
The only thing I could see is it holds the edge longer, but it's not worth the money for me. I wouldn't want something cheap. MagnaCut's not worth the money. And there's plenty of other steels that are right there, right behind them for half the price, in my opinion. I own MagnaCut knives, but I bought them because, like say, Buck first came out with a MagnaCut 110, so I got that. For those reasons. I don't mind that CR, what do you call that crap?
The stuff that Columbia River uses, the CR,
that CR8
MOV or whatever it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys using those.
E2, 154 CM, as opposed to CPM, which is that's a super steel. ATS 34, remember that? That was great, except it It peppered a little bit easier.
Oh, it was.
Sorry, Inky,
It,
what'd you say about the CPM? What I didn't quite get
CPM
that.
is like crucible, you know. It's like a powdered steel.
Yeah, no, I know about there. That's one of the technologies that actually makes a difference to me.
yes.
Oh yeah, but the price, yeah, it makes a difference for sure. So that's
Yeah.
why I said, because I like 150 CM, but I didn't want that to be confused with CPM. But yeah, that's definitely better. But the prices, man, they're crazy now. You know.
Yeah, it's when I talk to my customers, when I'm talking to them and they're trying to order a knife and they're talking about what steels they should get. I remember we had the one writer, he wrote for Knife World and Knives Illustrated. I'm pretty sure his name was Mike Black. I know first name's Mike because we were on a friendly basis and we talked to each other. Sometimes I forget the last name because you don't necessarily call somebody by their last name. And so he had a science background. He was a mechanic and he went back to school as an adult, got a science degree, and he ended up teaching. So his articles were very scientific. So what he would do is take a 1/2-inch piece of sisal rope, sharpen the knives with a Lansky system so all the secondary bevels were at the right angle. And then he had, I can't remember whether he had a machine that did it or he did it. He would press cut through the 1/2-inch piece of rope and then do the absolutely exciting, scintillating task of counting each freaking cut. And so I thought to myself, my God, I couldn't do it. God bless him. He provided some good information. But he found something like, so a good example is one of my favorite folding knives from Spyderco is the Centifontes. So I think it was the drop point Centifani. I can't remember what that was called, the 3 or the 2. And he had that, and he cut 800 cuts with that. And so he was like really impressed with it. He gave it to his buddy to clean some deer with. The guy cleaned the deer with the folding knife, which is very good for a knife. I mean, you don't need a large knife, but since it's folding. And then so the guy liked it so much that Mike gave him the knife. So Mike bought another Centifonte, and he put it through the same test. And that Centifonte, being made of the same steel, coming out of the same factory, only made 500 cuts, 300 cuts less.
Oh.
So I'm going to wrap this up. There's two things you learn from this. Anytime anything's being in production, there are margins of error. So just because the MagnaCut or D2 is on it and it's Crucible D2, doesn't mean you're going to get the same quality because something could have happened in production to where that blade was sitting in the cold section of the oven, or during the process,
Absolutely.
maybe a couple of blades laid on top of it, and the insulation factor from the blades made it cool slower and things like that, right? That's a factor. The second thing is where's the value in all this? So if somebody says to me, Abe, I want this fancy steel. We'll just say this fancy steel. And then I made knives out at $10.95. And I said, well, base price is based on $10.95. That steel has made more knives than any other knife in the world. And I said to them, this is your price for this. So if I have to spend an extra $100 to $150 to get the steel for your knife, how many more cuts would you have to get on a test? And I would explain the Mike Black test to them to make that worth your while. Because if all you're getting is 50 more cuts out of $150 worth of steel, over the lifetime that adds up. But really, do you even notice? Because the rule of thumb is performance starts getting noticed at 15%. So
Right.
if you're getting 800 cuts, and then the fancy steel that you're paying $150 more is getting you 50 more cuts, you're not even noticing you're getting the 50 more cuts. That's not 15%.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's my rant.
So the thing that gets to me, and I think Inky's got some input on this as well, I am personally a big believer in things like edge geometry and the thickness of the stock that you start with. Of course, the grind, whether you got a flat or a hollow grind, where that secondary bevel is and what kind of angle. I feel like all of that plays a much more important role than what the fancy steel is. What do you think about that, Inky?
Yeah, I agree, 100%. I don't even mind sharpening stuff. I always like flat ground blades. And, I don't care about all the behind it strength and, all that other stuff. I think, what, MagnaCut, they say, something like MagnaCut's easy to sharpen. I don't know, I've never sharpened it. But, I love using a Swiss Army knife.
Yes.
Those things sharpen up like you can't believe because they're thin and they're good steel and stuff like that. Now, if the knife's too thick, it's even harder to resharpen. Because all the different grinds, saber, whatever it is. I don't like hollow ground because I don't have much luck sharpening them. Lately, I'm a little better at it, but I don't mind, being that I always use flat ground blades, I don't mind at all what the steel is. As long as it's not a car bumper, I don't want crappy 420. I want at least buck 420 HC. something like that. D2, any of that stuff is great for me. I love 1095.
Absolutely, yeah.
All of that stuff. For me, it doesn't matter. But I have a lot of high-end steel knives, too. So I'm not against the knives or the steel. I just rather sharpen something that I've been sharpening my whole life. And I get stuff really, really sharp.
Well, you touched on something there. When you get into some of these harder super steels, you can't just sharpen them everywhere. You do need diamond stones in order to do that. Which is, they're plentiful and cheap nowadays compared to the old days. But, even so, not everybody has a diamond. And if you do have a diamond stone, who's to say that you have it handy when you need it, right? I mean, going back to your Swiss Army knife example, I've sharpened my Swiss Army knife on the edge of the glass in my car window. I've sharpened them on a flat stone. I've sharpened them on the bottom of a ceramic mug. And the Swiss Army knife is not going to hold its edge as long as MagnaCut or any of the super steels. But the nice thing is it's very easy to resharpen. And the edge geometry, the very, very thin blade means there's almost no drag whatsoever when you're cutting. That high polish and the thinness of the stock, it just slices right through anything. In fact, I gotta say, one of my all-time, probably the best cutting knives I've ever owned are these cheap little French things, the Opinels. You get one of these in carbon steel, you can see how thin this blade is. I mean, that's probably 3 millimeters thick, less than 1/8 of an inch, and that will, these cut like laser beams.
Yeah, and they hold edges too.
Oh,
And
if you
for,
get the...
for the thinness of that and the Swiss Army knife, they really hold an edge for a while.
They absolutely
People
do.
never sharpen the Swiss Army knives. They don't know how to.
And this will outcut any... This will outcut any MagnaCut blade that you've got. I would put this up against anything. This is about a $40 knife. That's pretty impressive when you consider the price of the MagnaCut stuff.
Those used to be only $5. Remember when the Opinels used to be only $5?
Yeah, 5, 10, depending on the size.
Yeah.
If I was in the woods now surviving, I would want MagnaCut. You know what I mean? Yeah, they became popular, those things. Cold steel made them extra popular.
Yeah, the Twistmaster series.
They're worth a mint now.
Yeah, I never got one.
Yeah,
I
nice.
couldn't stand them.
Oh, I got a couple of the cold steel ones. For me, that whole thing that you guys were talking about, it's, people want to kind of break it down, when really, if you look at your knives, it's a system. So I don't care if you have great geometry, you got a flat grind. I don't care if you polish the knife up. If the steel is too soft, it's not going to do you any good.
Right.
You have to match the system. So it's, instead of everybody trying to act like this is my team, I'm for the grind team, I'm for the steel team. People should kind of realize that it's a system, and you can't have a proper working knife unless you match the grind with the duty the knife is supposed to pull.
Absolutely.
Along with, like, for instance, flat grinds are great. I love flat grinds. They would be my second choice for a woods knife compared to a Scandinavian grind. But the problem you run into with Scandinavian grinds is, if you're talking about wilderness survival and stuff like that, they're not, everybody would argue, not everybody, a lot of people would argue with me. I'd say you can't use them on game. You can. They'll cut the meat. They'll cut the fur. But if you ding a bone with a Scandinavian grind, you're going to get a chip. So,
Right.
I mean, that would not be my first choice. I would keep it's an incredible knife, an absolutely incredible knife. And I often look at it thinking to myself, with my knife collection, why I waste time on a lot of other fixed blades and stuff like that. For a small fixed blade, the Victorinox paring knife is absolutely amazing. You can do so many, you can't do everything with it. You can't do woodwork with it. But if you need to cut vegetables, clean a small animal, if you need to prep dinner, things like that, woodworking, it'll work wood. You just got to be careful.
Amazing.
It's a sliced cut. You're not going to take it and baton the living shit out of it.
That is a lot of knife in a small package, those Victorinox
I got
paring
3 of
knives.
those full serrated. I actually cut the insulation out of my house the other day with one of them.
Wouldn't
Yeah,
surprise me.
Doing an addition, I'm not kidding.
Maybe
It
don't
takes
bother
off
using that
one
one for
off,
food
make it
prep
like
in the
it.
future, though.
Unbelievable.
So here's a funny story. The day that my wife left, she brought the moving company to the house to pack up and leave. And she came up to me, out of all, there's 2 things she asked me if she could take of mine. Because she, well, one, for somebody else. We had a friend who would come and visit and backpack. and they never had a backpack of their own because they lived in Toronto. They normally didn't have backpacks. So she asked for one of my backpacks. The second thing she came up to me and asked for was 2 of the Victorinox paring knives. The woman's leaving the house. She doesn't ask for anything but my backpack and those two paring knives. And when she did it, she came to me with $1 in hand, knowing the old tradition of you need to swap a coin for a knife. She was prepared. She wanted those 2 knives.
Well, yeah, but as she was leaving, I don't know if that tradition was important since, she was severing the relationship anyway, right? Isn't that the thing? You have to pay for a knife or it severs the relationship?
No, you get cut with it, I think. There's all different stuff.
We still talked for a while afterwards. But anyways, that's how impressive those knives were. She really loved them. She didn't want to, everything else in the kitchen, anything else in the cutting tools. I have a full set of Victorinox butchering knives. I used to teach butchering lessons on, I'd get a half pig and teach people how to process meat because I taught primitive skills classes. But man, I'll tell you, almost any time I'm doing any kind of cutting that's not big, I've got a couple of Victorinox knives, and that's what I use.
How do I sign up for one of these courses where we butcher a whole pig? I'm assuming we cook it next? Because I could be in for that.
So we'll do the pig, and then, for instance, there'll be a little class on how to take the belly and make bacon out of it, right? And then we teach them how to tie up for roasts and stuff like that. I belong to a primitive skills organization, so they teach, how to kind of like homesteader skills. So, but yeah, to me, it's a system, guys. I look at the whole thing because I'll tell you right now, here's a personal story, and I don't mind sharing it. I had a knife licensed to CRKT. It was my bushcraft knife. And they sent it offshore to me, shock, to be made. And I said to them, I said, I don't care what you make it out of, but whatever you make it out of has to hit a Rockwell 59. Bare minimum Rockwell 59 because it's a bushcraft knife. It needs that along with the geometry I've made for it, which is a Scandi grind with a nice point to it and everything like that. And I sent them an email, said, hey, 59. I made sure it was well known. I needed 59. They had the knife done offshore in 1075. They couldn't get the 59, and the reviews on YouTube were, hey, the design of this knife is good. We know this maker's quality, but this execution by CRKT fell short because of the steel they used. When it came up for review, like, are we going to relicense you for it? I didn't get relicensed, and they blamed me. It's like, well, your design wasn't very good. No, you guys gave me 55 Rockwell. I needed 4 more points.
See, I miss the old days when, was it Puma, the German manufacturer, used to always have a little divot in the at the big blade right above the guard where they literally tested every blade coming off the line.
And they put the sticker with the arrow.
Yeah, to point it out.
Just so you know what it is. Puma, yeah. I still love that and hate it at the same time.
Because it marked up your knife?
Yeah.
Yeah. But see, in part, this is a funny thing because we've fallen victim to marketing. People don't understand heat treat. I did an article one time where I mentioned a knife was done in 1075, and the guy comes back at my editor with a letter saying, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I went to, and I forget this guy's site. He's considered a genius knife maker at heat treating. And I'm not going to mention any names because of the situation. It's not to any fault of his own. All he did was put a TTT chart up, time transformation chart, which shows you what happens when you're heat treating that piece of metal. Mm-hmm. And the people thought he invented the chart. Thought, oh, he's a genius. Look at this. He's got a graph. He's put a graph. That chart is available to anybody. When you look at the heat treating specs. And so the guy said, your guy's wrong. 1075 can be heat treated to 59. Well, that steel, when you heat treat it to 59, it's too brittle. It'll break and chip.
Yeah.
So it's hard to explain to people that there's an optimum Rockwell and then there's a maximum Rockwell, and that's what tempering exists for, because heat treating just isn't heating it and quenching it. It has to go through processes afterwards, depending on the metal, to get it to its optimum performance range. This turned out to be a long exchange in the magazine through the editor, issue after issue, and or maybe one issue, and he kept all the emails, put them in once. And so finally the guy turns around, because I love when they do this. Oh, I accept Mr. Elias's premise because I checked the American engineering charts, and they said, yes, the optimum Rockwell for 1075 is 55 and not 59. And I was like, oh, thank you. So I don't understand. It's a pet peeve of mine. I don't understand why people can't take me at my word. They've always got to get somebody else to contradict them before they understand that it was, I was right. Sorry.
Everybody wants to be right.
Yeah, for sure. But you're absolutely right. It is a system. You do need to look at a lot of different things. But my point is things like edge geometry and grinds have a lot more to play than the steel itself. But you're right. If you use pot metal, you're going to get pot metal. It's like a car. Yeah, you can drop a Chevy 350 into a Dodge Omni, and with enough work, you can make it work. But realistically, that's just a waste of a good engine.
Yeah, it would be fun to see what happens to the car when you hit the gas.
I have seen that. I've also seen what happens when you run a Firebird without oil, but that's another story entirely. But yeah, I personally believe that you take a passable steel. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular. You give it a nice thin profile, and you put a nice edge on it. And you have yourself a good cutter. Are you going to win the cutting competitions? No. Are the guys in Forged in Fire going to be able to chop through a cow bone and a railway tie and all the other crap that they cut? Probably not. But you know what? For most of those things, they make these things called axes and saws that I feel would do a much better job. And to be honest, I kind of blame Cold Steel for this one. As much as I love Cold Steel and I love their over-the-top marketing videos, I have never, ever, ever needed to use a small pocket knife to cut a cinder block in half.
Why not?
Because I guess I'm good with full-size cinder block.
You mean you don't break chains with your Swiss Army knives and a hammer?
No, not usually. I have never tried to baton a 70-foot tree with a Swiss Army knife. I have never tried to cut down the largest tree in the forest with a herring. Sorry, Abe made a Monty Python comment earlier, and so I had to reference it again. I've never felt the need to try to cut a railway spike with, a Spyderco. I've just never felt the need to do a lot of these heavy-duty things. I remember there was one knife that was advertised, I don't remember whose it was, but they had used a steam press to pound the blade through a quarter-inch steel tread plate and talk about how the tip was still intact, and I always thought to myself, that's impressive, but who the hell is ever going to do that? Who?
Some guy who gets attacked by a tread plate.
Well,
that happens all the time.
Even
That's
if that
almost
was
the
to
third highest
happen,
crime in
Right
the
down the
United
block,
States.
you don't have the strength of a steam hammer to then punch it through that tread plate, so you're still just as screwed.
You're counting on it self-impaling itself. Like
You know what I
if you
think
get
is
attacked by a
going-
T-Rex.
You know what I think is going on? I think people have unrealistic views of an average knife because every review, the people beat every knife to failure.
Yes.
They're going to beat every knife until it fails.
Yes.
Like people saying that K-bar military knife that they've been using all these years, those are crap. How are they crap? They're $90. They're crap. Now they broke one. Yeah, of course they broke it. They break everything. Do you know Buck, the original Buck? He used to test his blades. I think they're originally 440. He used to cut through nails and stuff. He was the original guy that used to hammer his knives through metal to test the Rockwell, to test the
I didn't know that.
He's the original dude. Now they got these knife makers that can pound this through. And Chuck Buck's grandfather was doing it. Whatever his name was. Arduino Barbuxalot. He was doing that stuff years ago. It's just all hyped up stuff. Listen, if I was in the woods, I'd want a Swiss Army knife, and I'd want the super steel fixed blade I could have. If I could only have a fixed blade. I don't want 440 in the wood. You know what I mean? I'll take a MagnaCut 5V and something really nice. V71 minus 43 Victor Charlie 7. That's a good one.
Well, that's the other thing nowadays.
Besides that, like you said, it's situational. Everything's situational. I hardly ever need more than a Swiss Army knife, but I still carry a tactical knife.
I've been on canoe trips with a fixed blade in my backpack, and in the 2 weeks I was on the canoe trip, the only thing I opened up was my Swiss Army knife. The only thing I cut anything with, because I'm not out there building a shelter, I'm opening up food packages, right? Maybe I'm cutting some rope or something like that. People actually pay attention to what they did in their average day life. It's not, like we were talking about testing. Here's the logic I don't get. If you test a knife to failure and it fails, why are you surprised? When you're testing a knife to failure, like I think Nut and Fancy, I'm going to mention a creator's name. He was testing some knives one time and he was slamming the spines of them on rocks. Well, that's broke. That's no good. When the hell do you dispense? When do you do that?
How's it no good?
If
I
you're the
hate
kind
when
of
they do
person
that.
that's going to spend most of your day whacking spines off of something solid, you probably shouldn't be handling sharp things to begin with.
Yeah, they just, I don't know. It makes me like Lynn Thompson even more.
You know,
So I can't hear you.
I love Lynn Thompson, that little nut job that he is.
I
I
love Lynn Thompson. I love the proof videos. I have the original one on VHS somewhere. If most of our readers won't even know, or listeners won't even know what VHS is, but it's a thing that mommies and daddies used to watch.
Remember those, what are they called? They were like the copies of the African knives. He made them with the ring and just as a slip joint.
Yeah.
He was pounding the slip joints one through piles of cardboard boxes. It wasn't even closing on him. That dude will cut a goat in half with 1085.
That
It's
was
like
the
this. It's sharp.
that was the Okapi knife or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. I have them. I should know. One was called the Cuda and Kudu or Kudu Light. It's just like, look what he did with regular steel that we always use.
Yeah.
He uses
Yeah.
85, not even 95 sometimes. 75.
I thought they were still using AUS 8.
Yeah, they use everything. Did they have S35 VN? I don't know if they use. I think they might be using MagnaCut too now. They have the whole thing.
Well, yeah, but it's not cold steel anymore.
Yeah, it's cold deal.
Yeah, ever since they were sold a few years ago to, I think it's GSM Outdoors.
Yeah,
You know, a lot has changed, which you expect when a
it's
company's
not the
been
same. Lynn Thompson, they said, would send a whole pallet of knives back. A whole pallet. If those knives were like off just enough, he wouldn't even sell them. They're not doing that now.
So I'm looking at Cold Steel's site here. They've got CPM 3V,
Yeah, that's good
CPM
steel.
535 VN, AUS 10A, AUS 8A, VG1 Sanmai, VG1 Stainless, VG10 Sanmai, A2. My God, they've got quite the list here.
Yeah, he picked up the steel game before he left too, but
here's one of the things too. With this many steels out there, they're just on top of each other. And what I mean by top of each other is, if anybody knows how metallurgy goes, you'll have like this amount of chromium in a steel, and they'll go like plus or minus 1%. So
Yeah.
there's hardly any difference, right?
yeah, that's
ATS 34 and 154 CM, was it 2 points chromium different or something like that? They're the same steel.
they were the same steel.
Yeah.
ATS 34 was the Japanese version of 154, and if you went to Scandinavian, RWL 34 was ATS. They were the same steel. That's like with these CR13 MO8, CR13 MOVs. They're just on top of each other.
I had no problem with those steels. All they are is a little bit softer version of the one ahead of it. Even 8 is okay for me. Man, 7's probably okay.
8CR13 MOV, in case anybody's wondering.
It's a good steel. It's not bad.
So they'll work if you get the right heat treat on them, but one of the biggest problems they had with Chinese factory knives when they 1st came out was in case in other companies that make a knife, at the time, the majority of final sharpening was done by hand. So if you left somebody on there to do it, all the knives were sharpened properly. If you look at the early Chinese stuff, especially when you look at something like Rough Rider, which was that company was invented by the guys who owned Smoky Mountain Knife Works. That was their company, that brand. You look at the early models, the secondary bevels are horrific, uneven, too short, because they kept rotating the sharpeners. But I was going to mention something really quick too. So one day I'm at the booth. I don't know how many people have asked this a cold steel, but I'm at the cold steel booth and I looked at one of the employees and I go, "That's one of the employees that was in the tapes where they cut up all the meat." I said,
Yeah.
"What do you do with all that meat when you're done?" He says, "Well, some of it we have a barbecue out of it, and the rest we give." I think he said give to shelters. It's been such a long time ago. It's kind of. I was wondering, what do you do with all that meat when you do a video?
I just always assumed they had a big barbecue afterwards because, why wouldn't you? What else are you going to do with it?
Well,
Yeah.
Lynn Thompson, that was all done on his ranch. They were barbecuing everything.
Yeah.
But they had too much of it, right? They had to give something
Yeah.
away. They had more than they could eat.
I could see him in back.
That they covered on Mythbusters once, too, after all the pigs that they used as human analog. Jamie has a big barbecue afterwards or something like that.
I miss those guys.
Yeah, they were great.
So Jamie was the one with the beret.
Yes.
I know his name. I'm just drawing a blank now. The other guy,
Adam Savage.
So he's got his own channel on YouTube right now.
Yep, tested.com.
And
I thought
son
you
of a
said Adam
bitch,
Sandler.
if I don't want to send him a hate letter. One of my favorite screwdrivers of all time is the Stanley Workmate. I had a full set sitting on my pegboard at home, peg board sitting at home, and I would collect all the iterations of the handle design, like knives. Like I was right into them. And then one day he made a video on how that's his favorite set. And do you think you could find one of those son of a bitchin' workmates, masters,
Yeah.
or workmates? Workmasters, yeah. Now, no, you can't, because and the worst part is some of those assholes buy them and send them to him. I'm like, he doesn't need more. Shut up, leave him alone.
I'm glad that that was your complaint about it, because Adam Savage is kind of a god to a lot of us. So I'm just gonna tell people that if you want to send me hate email for Abe, I will happily forward it along. Our email address is edctv@multitool.org. I'm going to put it down on the bottom right here.
Hold on, I'm going to write an email.
Actually, I found out after I edited the last episode, it's actually going to go up here, because down here is where all the captions are. So, yeah, I screwed that one up.
It's where the bad people go.
Exactly. So the email address is going to be up here. If you have some hate mail for Abe saying bad things about Adam Savage, otherwise you should check out tested.com, because he's definitely worth watching. Also, I got to say, hats off to the remnants of the build team and their new podcast, Mythfits. You should check that out too, because it's really worth watching.
Well, if I'm going to get some bad mail, I'm going to mention another reason why I hate him. Same reason why I hate you sometimes. I'm watching his show, and he just, look, I've got these players, and now I got to buy them. Between you and him, they're not going to have a grave to put me in. They're going to have to put me in a paper bag alongside a curb when I pass away.
That's EDC TV at multitool.
There you go. Maybe I'll get some hate mail from Adam Savage himself.
My God, I would print that out and frame it.
Son of a bitch. Yeah. No, I didn't know there were special glasses, pliers for bending eyeglasses, until he was like, I can't watch the channel. I can't spend that kind of money anymore.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll all sell out soon, and we'll have enough money to buy all the proper toys.
Okay. Now I got that off my chest.
Feel about that.
So also for sponsorship inquiries, feel free to contact us at edctv@multitool.org. How many times in one podcast am I going to say the email address, huh?
Just post it up there.
I'm going to. See,
Get a
it's
t-shirt.
right here above me.
There it isn't.
Yeah. So
The name of this
Steel, I think we're on the
episode
same
is
page with Steels.
Go Plug Yourself.
So what?
The name of this episode is Go Plug Yourself.
Hey, you got to be careful. In some crowds, that might be, taken a different way.
Unplug yourself in the other places.
Same thing. Same.
Yes.
If they
same
got to
thing.
plug, they got to unplug.
Try coffee.
So, anyways, do you guys have any preferences in different types of steels? What do you like?
I like Big Butts, and I cannot lie. It's a good song.
Are those butts of steel?
I really like 154 CM since, 99, 2000. I don't know, Benchmade. When I got a hold of my first, when I used my first 154 CM knife, I noticed the difference, and I still like it. But I've been using a lot of D2 lately. I like D2. I didn't think I would, but I like it.
Do you find that the super steels open the Amazon packages any easier than
Yes.
the lesser steels do?
Some of them are so good that you open a knife, the package falls open on its own. It doesn't even want to. It's like, whoa, no, please, no. One package ran back to the mailbox the other day. It's kind of ridiculous.
I've always said that, until they start coming out with carbon fiber envelopes, I really don't need a high-end fancy steel knife. My Swiss Army knife, my Opinels, my ancient ATS 55 blades, they will cut open any envelope.
That's another one. That's another great steel.
Yep.
Very good steel, actually. What do you think, Abe? He was looking gangster.
I've used 1095 on my knives that I've made. I've had people request extra stuff, like extra high-end stuff. 95, all except for the fact that it rusts. Like here's one. This knife. So I had a knife that I designed for Spyderco, and it sat in the booth. You know how they put it in the booth and they have people give feedback on it?
Yeah.
So they wanted to keep it for their museum. So Sal said, look, I want to keep it for the museum. Can I have it? And I said, sure. He says, I'll give you something in return for it, so you're not out on anything. The the time this was 5160 or 52100. Sorry, 52100. I like the knife. It cuts very well. Only problem is in the hot summer weather when I sweat, this happens to it.
Yeah.
What is that? Is that a paramilitary there, Abe?
Yeah.
We call that peppering, right? That's what I call it.
So I'll clean it off and I'll leave it for the winter time or something like now, and I don't carry it now. My point is like that's about the only time that I really start mucking with the steels, because I have every carry knife I have. Not every I have different steels amongst them, and they all work well. As long as the heat treat is on, I don't get as long as the geometry's on, the heat treat is on. I really enjoy the knife, and I just like this here. That's that Bob Dozier knife that I complained about the thumb stud not being the area not being dimpled enough. That's
Right.
D2, right? That's D2, but it's got great geometry on it. It cuts well.
Do you find
the heat treat is on.
Do you find that D2 peppers less than the 34 or the 55 or the whatever you just had, the 52-100?
Peppers less? You mean rust?
Yeah, those little pepper. I call them pepper spots. It's not really
Yeah.
rusting. It's kind of like you can almost nail them off.
I've never had a problem with D2 doing that. And like I said, I work out in the hot sun and stuff like that, and I get pretty sweaty.
Yeah.
This is the first knife next to another Spyderco knife. Sorry, now I think about it. There was another one that gave me some rusting, but it's a Bradley knife. It's their Chinese-made Bradley knife. And it's somewhere on this table with the carbon fiber look-alike scales, or maybe they're carbon fiber. No, I doubt they're carbon fiber. They're carbon fiber
I don't know
look-alike
if I
like
know what
G10.
that.
And so those are the only two. These two Spydercos are the only ones that I had pepper on me out of the modern knives, and I've had some of my old slip joints do a little peppering.
You can advance the patina and you won't pepper. You know that. I used to put my new. What was the question? Oh, you can. I used to put my. I would take like an Uncle Henry or a case, CV, whatever. I'd stick it in a potato. Grant would probably tell you. He remember. I was doing it while we were talking a lot. I'd leave it in a potato for a week, take it out, and keep checking it. And the blade would almost blew itself.
Yeah.
Which is a different movie, but only certain people like those. It wouldn't rust anymore after that. Once it blew itself. Then with a Stockman, I'd have to use, do it 3 times or 2 potatoes at once, and everybody's to come over like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Potato patina." That's all I would tell them. Potato patina. It was great.
You can patina stuff. So I used to get a lot of guys with my bushcraft knives use mustard. They paint them in mustard and then wipe them off. And there's also the acid treatment. So I did this to a customer one time. The customer was a good friend, but I thought I wanted to screw with him. So I took his knife and I hit it with muriatic acid, which seals up the grain. They do that when they weld cars. So if anything under a car needs to be welded, they clean the frame off with acid first. That kind of seals the grain of the metal, and then they weld it. And so I picked that up from there. So I sealed the metal that way. Then I cleaned off the discoloration, light color. You can buff that off so it doesn't look yellowish anymore. And then I sent it to him, and a little while after that, he said, "Hey, you accidentally make my knife out of stainless steel because I can't get a patina on it anymore." I chuckled because there was no way his mustard was going to put a patina on it after I did that.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, all you need is that. Did he like that idea at the end or no?
He did it with mustard. A lot of guys were doing it with mustard.
Yeah.
There were some guys, they just didn't realize everything had vinegar in it, and that's what was doing it. There's some guys swore by hot sauce.
Yeah.
They do it,
I tried just vinegar. Just vinegar will do it too.
Didn't you also try it with an orange at one point, Inky?
I did all kinds of stuff. I found the potato, blued it, like it turned bluish. Especially my Schrade carbon. I loved it. It wasn't perfect, like a perfect bluing like a gun, but it was really cool, man. I like it. I'm going to do one again. I like the blue.
So here's the
show it to us.
here's the $10 million question. Are there any blade steels that you guys would tend to avoid? Abe, what do you think?
Like I said, I think they're all good steels if they're just heat treated properly. Because once you get 59, you can do everything with it. When you start getting stupid and getting into these 60s, then you get the problem, exactly what you talked about. You start to need a harder medium to sharpen them.
And what about you, Inky? Any blade steels that you just
Anything
look at and you go, nope?
Anything that resembles a car bumper, stuff that you can't sharpen or it sharpens for a little while. Anything like CR, whatever, 3, 5, like that stuff. But then No, anything that works for me. I'll sharpen it, use it. If it keeps the edge, that knife is good for me. I don't care what it's called, you know. If I have to sharpen it every other day, especially if I don't use it, that's a problem.
Well,
Do you remember the whole tobacco with you might have to cut this out, but what the heck? What's that guy's name? Damn, I don't remember his name. Remember the tobacco with me losing my memory? Remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, see? What's his name? I was going to say Hitchcock. Probably not Hitchcock. The other guy. Wow. Hinderer. He's a little
Rick
sensitive.
Hinderer?
Yeah, so remember that there's a dude, I don't know his name. He was Rockwell testing Hinderer's blades and they weren't testing. And this ended up into a whole big problem. Actually, Hinderer started to sue the guy. You're probably going to have to cut this out, but what the hell? I mean, I don't know if I got all my facts straight, but the dude tested a few of them, and him and Hinderer got into it. And, yeah, there was a problem. I think it was just like Abe said. It was, a bad batch or something like that. Because how can he treat everything exactly the same? But,
Did I ever tell you my Hinderer story?
I have a couple of them that I don't want to tell. What do you got?
One year, I think Bob and I were at SHOT, and that was the year that Rick Hinderer had the Gerber rescue knife.
Yeah.
Gerber Hinderer.
Yep, I remember.
And,
I remember that.
And you know me, I got a big mouth and I'll say just about anything for the funny, for comedic effect. And we're walking along and I'm looking at this. There's signage everywhere because they were just doing a big promo for it. And I said, Hinderer Rescue. And he said, this has got to be the stupidest thing. I said, if you were trying to rescue somebody, you don't want anything hindering you. Not even a very funny joke. But guess who's standing right behind me? It was Rick Hinderer.
Yeah, that's why I'm laughing.
I thought he was going
to
punch me.
I find the good knife makers know how to roll. Like, there's Bussey, Jerry Bussey. People don't know his background very well. So he was a college dramatic arts teacher, and at one point in time, he was doing stand-up comedy at the same club as Robin Williams. Okay?
Okay.
So if you ever watch this guy, you understand, the product aside, you understand why he is the way he is and his company got so big. Is because he's a showman. And so one time on Blade Forums, some guy hammered a Skeletal, the cheapest knife he sold at the time, the skeletonized little paring knife-like thing,
right.
Hammered it into a concrete block, and then he kicked it, snapped it, and he said, I want another knife because you said your knives aren't breakable. He says, yeah, but, he handled it very nicely. He said, yeah, but, it's not breakable for under reasonable conditions, and I'm summarizing it. But then he says, but take a good look at those pictures you sent me. Look at the edge of the break. That break shows you that it took a tremendous amount of stress before it broke. And he twisted it right around on the guy. He said that knife took probably 3 times more stress than any other knife would take. And he just turned it into an advertisement. He said, yes, you broke it. But to break it, you had to put an ungodly amount of force on that thing. And that little knife, the smallest knife I made, took it. And that was like, it was like everywhere was Jerry Bussey, Jerry Bussey. He's good at it. If you want him, for a guy that, like, I don't know about Hinderer, but all I can tell you is there's a lot of knife makers can't do what he does, and that's he rolls with it. Jerry will roll with it like no problem.
Yeah, he'd put out knives like 11 o'clock tonight. I'm putting out these knives. And people would buy them 11 o'clock at night. But anytime his knives are coming out, they sold out. It was amazing.
Model after model. And if you've ever seen him at Blade Show, if you've ever been at Blade Show, where he sets up his booth, it's like a rock concert. He gets out there, he starts talking, everybody's, ooh, it's crazy.
So here's the next big question then, and then after that I think we're going to wrap it up for this episode. But we've been talking a lot about the steels and what we use to sharpen them. What are your go-to sharpeners there, Inky? You want to start us off?
I use mostly the Spyderco Sharp Maker, and if I want to reprofile a little or mess with something a little bit more, I'll use a Lansky. That's it.
And that's the Lansky with the clamp and the stones and the guide rods and everything?
Yeah, but I hold it in my hand. I don't,
Right.
I don't, I would touch something up on anything. Cardboard, anything. Glass, like you said before. A cup. Leather. I like leather.
Always got to get the leather in there.
Jeez.
What about you, Abe? What are your go-to sharpeners?
For my regular knives, I've got a strop. I use strops to touch them up. If I need to do anything with the secondary bevel, I've got some DMT bench stones, or I just use this little puppy here. This is a Falk Niven DC3, I think it is. Ceramic on one side. Kitchen knives, I've got 2 sharpeners, a Falk Niven diamond rod, and I got a DMT diamond rod, tri rod. 2 different grits on this Falk Niven, 3 on the DMT, and I also have what they call a crock, which is I wish I would have known ahead of time you were going to ask me, is a ceramic rod of about that diameter.
Okay.
Every time I joke around with guys and say this is the home defense version of a sharpener.
Well, officer, I didn't want to stab him, so I beat him to death with the sharpener.
And I'll tell you, one shot from this thing, it's like somebody hitting you with a toilet lid.
Do you ever use a regular, like a rod like they use in the kitchen?
Like a
Just
steel?
to realign the teeth a little bit? Like a steel?
But that's the crock one with a diameter on that thing.
You know
Right?
what's wrong.
So this is the DMT. You'll see it. It's got 3 surfaces to it.
Right, yep.
And this one I really like because, so this is the Falk Niven one, diamond rod, 2 different types of grits. But the reason why I like it is, if you look at it, it's got that eye shape. If I can get it over there in front of the camera. And so what that means is on the round, when you go to put the blade up, we'll use my,
It follows the curvature down to the tip.
well, when you go to put your blade up, it's because of this big one, I can get in there. Let me see if I can't show you. So see how that wants to ride up against there, and you're going to hit the fuller area.
Yep.
Okay. This here, when I do this, it gets right in there. I get right up to the back edge and
Yep.
not miss any sharp and get full sharpening surface on it.
Oh, he's right there.
So that's why I really like the Falk Niven one. So I'd say probably most often on the small knives like that Victorinox paring knife, I'll use this. When I teach sharpening, I teach everybody if your steel you can catch your thumbnail in the cross grain on your steel, you need to throw that away because it's just going to shred your knife to bits.
Yep, yep. Well, that's been some wonderful insights, gentlemen. I think that we're going to just call it right there. It's been a fantastic pleasure talking with you guys again tonight. It's really great having you guys here. I don't know that we'd have much of a podcast without you. So, once again, if you have any comments on anything that you've seen or heard here today, we can be reached by email at edctv@multitool.org. I'm going to put the email address right there. We also have a dedicated subforum at forum.multitool.org, and that is for talking with us or anyone else in the community about the things that you see here or you'd like to see here. So, once again, I'm going to say thank you very much to you guys for giving us your time tonight. Thanks, Abe, and thanks, Inky. It's always a pleasure. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to say before we go?
Have a good day.
Pleasant day.
You too, guys. Have a good one.